Welcome back to Edgework, presented by FanDuel as part of the Hammer Betting Network. And if you're wondering why we're laughing here to start things off, we went live at about a few minutes late, maybe about 10:33, 10:34, and turns out we weren't live.
Apparently not.
About the first 7 minutes of the show, and we had not gone live at all. So I was looking for while somebody was giving a beautiful breakdown of the Canada-USA game, I was looking for the link to tweet it out, and we were not live. So we're going to do this all again. Maybe a terrible day for that to happen too, because I am battling some sort of throat thing right now. But that was the first time we did our own little private show. We had a warm up. So, and Charles, I don't think we can skip that part. Let's get into it. Before we do, you're on mute, Albert. It's a disaster.
Yeah, we're doing great. We miss producer Zach back there. We miss him kind of running the show here. I'm on mute. We don't need to recap the private show. Charles definitely doesn't need to see that. It was about what you'd expect. Nothing's really happened since the last show. There's nothing to recap. I feel like the Rangers certainly haven't played a game. There's nothing to recap.
We will get a little Rangers talk. We will get some Canucks talk. We will get some Canada-USA talk. Before we do, we have a new ad read debuting here on this fine Monday as we are back on Edgework. Puckheads, the NHL playoffs are right around the corner, and FanDuel is bringing you the best bets on the ice. Get in the lab when you make your same-game parlay by checking out FanDuel's player performance pages that track stats and averages of all your favorite players. Once you know who's cooking, add shots on goal, points, assists, or even goalie saves to your SGP. Miss puck drop, you can still tap in with live same-game parlay and period-specific player props. Right now, new customers can kick off the season with $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just place any $5 bet and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download FanDuel Sportsbook and make every moment more. Please play responsibly. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC, or 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-866-531-2600 or visit connexontario.ca. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't close the tab for the ad read after we did it. It's the second time I did it now in 10 minutes. Not exactly what my throat needed today, but it's all right. We'll start off with, before we get into the Rangers talk, Alber's already fighting people in the chat.
We're not fighting. We're basically debating who thinks they're worse, and I think they're worse.
Okay. Before we get to that, we do need to talk about Canada because it was a magical Thursday evening in Boston. Nathan MacKinnon, the gift that keeps on giving, gets home as tournament leading goal scorer, Canada's leading goal scorer, tournament MVP, and all the Canada futures at any number that Kanish was very much talking shit about on Twitter throughout the week after the first game. They all get home. So Money, talk to me about Thursday night.
I've already said what I have to say.
Yes, that's true. I really recorded it.
That is very true.
Are we live for sure here?
We're live for sure here.
All right. Okay. No, but so it was it ended up meaning a lot. I felt that it didn't just become another exhibition game, and I think a lot of that had to do with how long it's been since we've had this caliber competition, right? You had the best players going up against each other, and it did end up mattering. I know going into the tournament, we were kind of hesitant what it's going to mean, what the players were going to feel, but you could see right from the beginning that it meant a lot to all the players, well, most of the players. We'll talk about Elias Pettersson, I'm sure, but it did mean a lot to most of the players, and that was apparent. And as the tournament went on, it started it just meant a lot for us fans as well, right? And the other part of that had to do with how the Americans came out on the first game on Saturday, right? Like where they felt that they could kind of push Canada around and set up physical tone and stuff, which is fine. That's their game, and I think that even next year in the Olympics, I think we'll still see a heavy American team, and that's going to be their strategy moving forward against Canada. But as we said before the tournament, and as the tournament went on, we were expecting Canada's skill to start rising to the top, and we did see that, right? It was the skilled guys that made everything happen in that game. So that was that was nice to see. Of course, the money made it better. We had the Nate McKinnon stuff, and that kid's a horse, right? Like he just came through for us in every way. Goaltending matters a lot to me, obviously, and as the tournament went on, as the games got bigger, I was feeling more and more comfortable with Jordan Binnington. There's certain goaltenders that you just know are going to be fine in on the bigger stage. Stuart Skinner comes to mind. You have no problem with Skinner in a game 6 or 7. If you want Skinner, you're gonna be able to get him in the first 4 games, or if the Oilers are up 2-1 in the series, that's when he's very susceptible. But as the stakes get higher, there's just certain goaltenders that are going to be fine, and Jordan Binnington is one of those guys. Now we've had a Stanley Cup with him. We've had this game with him, right? So he's starting to build a resume now about that's predicated around big games. So yeah, it was nice how everything just came together. Money was good. It was a very good tournament. I'm still reeling from it. Still recovering. Emotion high. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but like part of me, the NHL came back on Saturday, and I was like, I almost needed a little break. I was like, I'm not even as excited for these games as I thought I would be. Like, thought I'd be dying for the NHL to come back. I was kind of like a little bit indifferent for a bit. And then getting to watch the Habs beat the shit out of the Sens really pulls you back.
The Rangers thought the break was still going on
yeah,
Saturday.
They did. Before we talk about the Rangers, how about you talk about how does it feel to take another L for your country in a title game to Canada?
So first of all, I'm not surprised. We kind of knew that. You made fun of me quite a lot for that. I had a bet on Canada in the game, so definitely not surprised by that. I think we kind of saw what the difference is between these two teams, because like the gap is not very big, obviously, right? Like they played 2 games, both of them could have gone either way. We saw the gap, which was in the big moments. Matthews couldn't score, Kachuk couldn't score, McDavid did, and Binnington made some great saves. And I mean, you can't blame Hellbuck obviously on the goal, but like Binnington made a few great saves. So it's like that really is what the difference is with Canada versus the US at this point. Is Canada's top players were very, very good, and US kind of sat there going, we want more from Matthews, we want more from Jack Hughes, who was terrible in the tournament. Like the Kachucks were injured, so it's hard to really blame them for much, but like you started the tournament with Fox on power play 1. He was unplayable near the end of the tournament. Like he was absolutely abysmal. So it's like that's really the difference, is that the US just kind of needed more from all their top guys. So not really shocking. Yeah, it would have been cool to win. I do think, and they kept touching on it. I think it was Ray Ferraro kept saying it, like this tournament, or these US-Canada games at least, were just so much more intense than anyone had anticipated. And we talked about it last week, like those 2 games versus every other matchup, it was like an entirely different sport you were watching. So it was really cool. And yeah, like so many said, kind of having been so long, like I think there was a lot of just like pent up energy that needed to get let out in that first game, especially being that it had been 9 years since the last time those 2 teams had really played. I don't really count the World Cup hockey. So yeah, U.S. players weren't good enough. I mean, Canada's still better. They still have the higher top end. And I think with Binnington, like you saw what he is during this tournament. He's going to allow some goals that you don't like, and I mentioned this on the last show, like he has the lowest floor, I think, of the 3 goalies they had, but he's got the highest ceiling for sure. And you kind of saw that late in the game when he made some great saves on Matthews and then Tkachuk there in overtime. So yeah, it was not a good showing for New York hockey players, to say the least there.
Miserable. Fox was, I saw a comment there from Hal. Fox was brutal. Fox had a really rough tournament, especially the championship game. He was terrible. Jack Hughes was invisible, but I don't think that was necessarily a surprise.
So I will say the thing with Hughes is I actually think I don't think he was very good. I think he got better as the tournament went along. And like the tough part was such a short tournament for a lot of these guys is like, at least with their NHL team, like they are the guy when they're on the ice. And like everyone kind of knows what they're going to be doing and guys learn how to play with them. It is the problem that you see with a lot of these kind of quick tournaments is that it can be really tough to mesh together quickly. And it did feel like Hughes more so was kind of struggling to find guys that more or less knew how to play with him rather than like him just being bad. And I think that is the tough part that you see here is like, you see guys like Dylan Larkin that can adapt to kind of the way they need to play with some of these better skilled players, have an awesome tournament where it's like, I think we'll all sit here and we all know that Jack Hughes is better than Dylan Larkin, but like he kind of struggled to adapt in some of those scenarios, not being the guy all the time. So it's like, it is tough, but yeah, it was, I agree with Mike's comment. I think Hughes got better as it went along.
But that's like the bar is so low. Like you still need way more from him.
Oh, you absolutely need more. No, and that's the difference between US and Canada. Like when Canada needed it, McDavid stepped up and McKinnon stepped up. Matthews couldn't score. Hughes didn't do very much. Like Tkachuk's obviously were like dying on the ice, but like Brady couldn't score in overtime.
Comment here too. You wonder what happens here with Tkachuk. I know that Maurice came out this morning and said he will play again for them. He's going to be out for a little while, but he will play again this season. Wonder what that looks like. Is this like a return for playoffs, LTIR type situation? Is this like he's out for the next month and he'll be back? Like, I don't know. Or is this like, do they need to make the second round for him to come back? So we'll find out timelines on that. But a lot of injuries kind of coming out of this tournament too. I saw Mike commented that way earlier when we did our fake go live and we weren't actually live. But I was surprised as many guys suited up as well on Saturday. I thought we would have seen a lot more guys sit out, but we didn't. That was pretty surprising to me. I don't know about
the Rangers need to fire up the LTIR machine, as Charles just put it, and put Fox there, put Kreider there, and just try again in October.
Yeah. I thought the tournament was awesome. Obviously, it's like Canada has the two best players in the world, and that's the difference. But like the gap is obviously shrunk to basically nothing between the two countries here. Yeah. And getting to watch this again in 2026 is going to be awesome. Hopefully obviously there will be a lot more teams, but hopefully with Russia there as well. Political stuff aside, like just from a pure hockey perspective, being able to see Russia in that tournament as well would be great. And hopefully getting to see these teams at full health, like getting Quinn Hughes in there for the U.S. Obviously it sucked that Morrissey couldn't play in that championship game. But like, I heard McDavid was pretty sick for that one too. Like, dude, just IV. I don't know. Like, how sick do you? I don't know. I'm not gonna. But like, what kind of sickness do you need to have? You wake up after your pregame nap to not play. You better be borderline dying because look at me. I'm sick. I'm doing the show right now.
Totally the same thing. It's playing a gold medal hockey 100%. Game versus your biggest rival. Sitting there with your little coffee mug in your house is totally the same thing.
A true gamer. From what I understand, it's going to be NHL. It's going to be NHL ice dimensions next year as well, right? Mm-hmm. So, they're not going to have Olympic sized rinks next year, right? So that matters, right? Mm-hmm. I think that we'll probably see a heavier US team again. And we talked about this going into the tournament where everybody's roles matter, right? Like when it's so tight between the teams, right? Like, I mean, there's not much separating Canada and US right now, right? And like when you go through the rosters during roster composition, everybody's role makes a difference, right? You need to know exactly what your job is. And I thought that you saw that a little bit with Canada, especially early on, that like where is this guy slotting in here, right? Like, what is his role on this team? But as the tournament went on, it became more apparent on the U.S. side that, as we suspected, that they had more guys where you really don't understand how they fit in, right? So I think that next year we will see a different U.S. team. I think that they will probably have learned their lesson, right? And I think it'll be a more structured team in the sense of how they want to play Canada. And I think that the roster will be based on that.
Yeah, agreed.
So
there were a lot of passengers. There were too many passengers, I think, too, and that'll get kind of worked out when it comes.
So to that point, like, I think the U.S. knows how they need to play against Canada, and I think that's really what they did in the first game. So like, I don't think it's necessarily an issue if they don't know how they need to play or that they can't match up against them. I don't want to make the excuse, but I think the problem is the way they want to play against Canada. When you lose Matthew Tkachuk, when Brady Tkachuk's clearly not healthy, like when you lose that aspect from those players specifically, that really hurts the way that you want to play. Because it's very clear that the U.S. just wants to play this grind it out, just slug it out kind of game against Canada, which they need to do. Like, they don't have the top end skill that Canada does. So when you lose a little bit of that aspect, like, it shows itself very quickly. So I think kind of having that aspect hopefully back makes it a little bit better, because that was something that they like. That to me was a bigger issue than like. I know this is crazy to say, but I actually think not having Matthew Tkachuk play most of that game was a bigger deal than if Quinn Hughes was able to play. Like I think they missed that aspect from Tkachuk. Yeah, I think they missed that
too.
A man down, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in a tournament like this when you're just full of top end players. Like, it's not
you're
like
already like giving a couple. There are already a couple of guys who you're not giving many minutes to, right? And then like to have a guy who you expect to be out there for 20, you're not just going to start throwing more minutes to. It just becomes like you have to rely on your top guys even more, and top guys weren't able to produce in those extra minutes, and that's basically like the difference there.
Yeah, I still don't tend to think it's as big of a deal as like just because you are just going back down to another superstar for the most part. I just think you lose that specific skill set that Matthew Tkachuk brings in a game like this. Like, for the way the U.S. wants to play, like that was just that really hurt them, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on from the tournament. Before we get to tonight's games, I wanted to talk about one other thing quickly. This is kind of a not Rangers Talk Radio, but this is like
they were terrible.
Eastern Conference playoff race, because obviously the news came out over the weekend that Hampus Lindholm, who we thought was going to be coming back at one point soon, is now actually not going to play at all for the Bruins this season. Charlie McAvoy is going to be out for a little while. Bruins, to me, feel fully cooked. Like, this is a we're on to next year type of situation. At this point, I'd be pretty shocked if they made the playoffs. Islanders are hanging around. I don't ultimately think they're going to find a way in. I think Montreal, Philly, Pittsburgh are all relatively dead. That leaves the Rangers and Columbus chasing the Sens and Wings. How are we feeling about these four teams? Like, I still don't buy into Detroit. I think Detroit drops off. I think this is down to Ottawa, Columbus, and the Rangers for those two spots. It's right there right now for Columbus. And I feel like those bets that were made over the last week's show, I think those are wildly live right now. Also, Marchenko coming back a lot quicker than I expected too.
Yeah, I love this Columbus team. I love the vibes within the dressing room. I love the way that they play. I love everything coming out of that team. I think that they're incredibly live to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're going to be pushing to make the playoffs. We touched on this last week. Their goal. You have certain teams' goals is that it doesn't matter if we make the playoffs because we're going to lose in the first round, but we have the pedigree as an organization that we can look forward to next year's and the following years to build on our core and have a stronger foundation moving forward. To it's okay to miss the playoffs this year, but we'll be back for multiple years after that. So that would be the thinking of a team like the Bruins, right? Who do make the playoffs every year, and they're going to have an off year this year. It happens. It's sports, right? A team like Columbus, though, we are never in this position to make the playoffs, right? Like, we're going to push to make the playoffs because we want this team, these young kids we have, to get a taste of playoff hockey, so that hopefully we can start building on that moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a team that is going to be adding in the trade deadline. They're going to be buyers for sure, and the push within the organization is to make the playoffs. That is the goal right now. So I love this Columbus team. The only way I'll be fine with Ottawa not making it is if if Columbus takes their spot. Rangers are right there. I mean, realistically, I would expect the Rangers to make the playoffs. I think out of those teams, the Rangers are the better team, and they should be able to make it. But there could be some implosion there as well, and Alber can speak to that better. But if the Rangers don't make the playoffs, it's because they're beating themselves, and which is high, which is likely. For the Wings, I would expect the Wings to start dropping off. We saw they did bounce back, but we saw on Saturday against Minnesota that this is a team that does have a lower floor. The way that Minnesota came back in that game and the Wings blew that lead, there was no reason for them to blow that lead. So I think that we'll start seeing the Wings start coming back down a little bit. So yeah, it leaves in my eyes it leaves Columbus, Ottawa, and the Rangers for those last two spots.
Yeah. Alber, are your Rangers making the playoffs? And if they do, who is the other team with them, and who is the odd team out here?
I mean, you kind of have to say at this point that they probably still do. I mean, they're just better than those other teams around them, especially when you take out like the Bruins without Lindholm and McAvoy. Like that's such a massive loss for them. Like they're just not deep enough on the back end to kind of keep up. So you can more or less just kind of delete everything I said about the Bruins last week. I was expecting obviously kind of have both those guys. Without them, like I think they could be in sell mode. The problem with the Rangers and the trade deadline's what, next week? I think.
It's 2 weeks from now, I believe.
2 weeks?
I'll search it while you're talking.
So, like, the Rangers are definitely in a position to sell a few guys off here. Like, there's a team at the deadline that's as bad as he's been. Like, somebody's going to want Ryan Lindgren. Like, somebody would want Riley Smith. And I would not be shocked if they tried to do a little bit of that, knowing that, like, this team's not making a run this year. Like, I made the joke the other night with somebody, and I actually think it's legit. Like, they could trade Lindgren and Keandre Miller for Devon Taves and Cale Makar tomorrow, and I still don't think they're one piece away from winning a Stanley Cup. So it's like I think they know that the clock's kind of ticking on this core, but I think they also kind of realize that this team is not it, and particularly back on D, like they're just not there. I don't know. I watch them, and it's like I almost don't even want to make. Like I don't want to watch this team anymore. Like how do you allow 8 goals to Buffalo? Like that was like the worst period I think they've played all season.
The way they started that game was wild.
And that's a low bar. Saying they had a terrible period. I remember against the Kings earlier this year where they got booed off the ice. Like there's just been so many bad parts of the season. I don't know. I think the bigger issue that the Rangers are kind of looking at going forward now. So like even past this year, like Zibanejad looks like trash. You got him another 5 years, $8.5 million. Fox looks like trash. You have him another 4 years, $9.5 million. Lafreniere has been useless the entire season. You got him another 7 years, $7.5 million. So it's like the problem isn't just like, oh, it's this core getting older. Like kind of going into the year, it was like, okay, Trouba kind of sucks. Like Mika's maybe not the same player, but everybody else is at that level. You look at it now, and I was talking to somebody last night. It's like, how many Rangers during the course of this season are better now than you thought they were in October? And I got one. It's Will Cooley. I can't think of a second player on their entire roster that I think is better now than the beginning of the season. Like
Cat
to me, the closest.
Better. Too bad you decided to move on from him.
Yeah, and it's like even like we brought in Borgen and he's been fine, but it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
the second player is probably Matt Rempe. Like that's how bad it's been.
Yeah, I think they ultimately make it, but it's like their ceiling is pretty low this season. It would be a lot more fun to have it. I mean, mind you, like Shesterkin can steal any series, so like the Rangers being in there.
I don't agree with the ceiling being low. That's why I think the ceiling's high, is because whenever you have the talent there and you have Igor who's capable of stealing a game, stealing a series, I think the ceiling is still there. The problem is you're not going to hit that ceiling when you're just getting caved in your own end every night and have a bottom half defensive core in the entire league, which you may subtract from at this point too. Like, I really would not be surprised if they end up trading Ryan Lindgren and somebody wants him going down the stretch, which he stinks.
But I was looking it up. The trade deadline is next Friday, so like 12 days from now, March 7th. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. So like
there's a lot of activity in the next little bit here. I was honestly surprised we didn't see a little bit more. I thought there would be some bigger news drops on the Friday after the Four Nations. I thought teams are just kind of holding on, but nothing yet. I do think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be very active, so I do expect a lot of trades over these next 12 days. So it should be fun. Okay, let's get into tonight's games here. This is we started the show about 15 minutes late because the fake live, and here we are, 11:08 on a 2-game slate, and we are still going. Haven't even talked about the games yet. So let's get into these quickly, and then we'll get out of here. First off, we have the Sharks at the Jets. Sharks plus 365, Jets minus 490, total of 5.5, minus 130 to the over, plus 106 to the under. So Money, are you taking a big number on your second favorite team in the NHL here, or what?
No, this game I'm going to pass on. I think there's a lot of the Jets did play a game, but I think that I don't know. It's going to take me a couple of games to kind of see each team and how
I agree.
how we're kind of playing the last half of the season here. The Sharks, they've shown bite this year. They've also shown how low their ceiling can be as well. So, and the Jets are probably going to run away with the division at this point, and probably win the conference. I just don't know. Kind of the Jets mindset going into the last half of the season. I know that going into the season, it was all in trying to make up for the disappointment of last year's playoffs. But and up to this point, they have been they have been all in the regular season. But as we get closer now to the playoffs and as their seeding becomes solidified, I just wonder how they're going to treat the last half of the season here. So that's something that, even though I want to fade the Jets, as we get closer and as the games get tighter, is still something that I need to keep an eye on. So I will have nothing on the game, but the Jets are a team that I would like to watch because I think that we'll probably have some opportunities to fade them moving forward. I just am not prepared to do that against the Sharks at this point.
Yep, fair enough. Alber, anything for you in this one?
No interest. And I think the one thing you said that I fully agree with is like it's going to take a couple games here for a lot of these teams, especially with a team like Winnipeg that had a few guys at the Four Nations to kind of get back into the swing of things. And it's like I just don't know what to expect from a lot of these teams coming right back out. I'm not dying to really bet anything at the moment, so no, nothing here.
Okay. Yeah. Same with me, and my throat's really starting to go here, so I'm just gonna save it all for another show. We got the Knights and the Kings in the second game tonight. Knights minus 104 in LA. Kings minus 115. Total of 5.5. Minus 108 to the over. 112 to the under. Alber, anything in this one?
So I'm not betting anything here. The one thing I want to say kind of about Vegas is that I was hoping to maybe get a better price on them. Obviously going to be without Theodore for a little bit, but if there's a team that's built to handle that loss, it is Vegas. Vegas just being kind of so deep on the back end. It's like we talk about Boston where they're not in a position to be able to withstand McAvoy and Lindholm. Vegas can kind of take an injury on their back end and still be pretty solid and pretty deep back there. So I was hoping to get a little bit better of a price here, especially against a Kings team that is not exactly an offensive juggernaut. I was hoping to get something kind of plus money, not getting there, not dying to bet it, but it would certainly be Vegas or nothing from me here. And it's definitely a team I'm kind of looking to back a little bit right now.
So Money, you feel the same way? Are you leading the opposite way, or do you have anything in this one?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and bet the Kings. I do. The Kings are a team that I think is going to be sneaky in the second half of the season. I thought that there was a lot of things that were coming together for them going into the break. I wanted to see how they would come out against the Utah team, and I thought that they played well. Deserved to win that game. And I also got to see Vegas kind of firsthand against the Canucks as well. So both of these teams are teams that I do want to bet going forward. But I think that the market is not picking up on the Kings right now. So at home, I think this price is a little bit short, and we're probably not going to see this number again on the Kings in this situation at home in a couple of weeks. So I'm betting on me being ahead of the curve, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that this Kings team is going to start moving up in the standings. So I do want to get on with the Kings here.
Fair enough. Yeah, so we will lock in the Kings here. I do lean that way as well. I didn't bet anything in this game. Also, I don't maybe a smaller lean to the over. But again, I'm going to tread really lightly with these totals coming into this, I guess, the stretch run or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to tread a little bit lighter over the next week with these and just kind of see how teams are playing and approaching these games. So nothing for me here. Kings would be my lean as well. I feel very strongly about this team. I do think they continue to be kind of undervalued by the market, but not going to be too trigger happy early on. So we'll just wait and see. But yeah, we've got Kings there. So we do have the one play today. I don't know if there's a point in locking in any sort of SGP or goal scorer parlay. I mean, we could pick one guy from each game if we really wanted to. Less so. I mean, if you guys had anyone in mind, we could do that quickly. I don't know if anyone in the chat has anyone in mind, but what do you guys think here? You want to do a quick one where we go one guy from each game? Grab a Kings player and maybe a Jets player or something?
I had nobody in mind.
Celebrini.
How about Celebrini 290?
Sure, Celebrini, and then let's grab a Kings.
Or we can just
here.
go full, Sam Rothstein and throw like William Eklund in there.
No, let's go Celebrini and Kempe. Kempe
Sure.
plus 210 on FanDuel. It's a good number.
Hadn't even looked.
Definitely the best price of market there, using the best Pro tool. So I like that. Celebrini and Kempe will be our goal scorer today. We'll get that thrown together in the background. Small one. So it's all we can do for a 2-game slate. There it is. 11-1. Celebrini and Kempe. I mean, maybe we can hit a 2-teamer or 2-player, whatever, 2-leg parlay. That would be great.
God, the Rangers play again tomorrow. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's how the schedule works. Usually play on Tuesdays. All right. We do have a lot more games to get to tomorrow, so there will be a lot more bets, I'm sure. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today and bearing with my coughing and all that and our late start from the fake live. We will be back tomorrow, as always, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I think maybe it'll be the three of us again. Until then, enjoy the games tonight. Good luck on your bets.